There have been a lot of great mysteries shown on the big screen throughout cinema history, but one of the greatest ones happened behind the scenes. In 1890, the first person to create moving pictures, Louis Le Prince, was on his way to present his invention at a public screening in New York. He boarded an express train to Paris from Dijon, France, after visiting his brother. And then he vanished without a trace. No one ever saw or heard from him again. Did he kill himself? Was he murdered? Or did he leave everything behind to start a new life on his own? Over a century later, the peculiar circumstances of Le Prince's disappearance remain unsolved to this day. Join us as we take a look at his life and investigate the possible reasons for his disappearance to dig out the truth of what most likely happened to Louis Le Prince. Louis-Aimé Augustin Le Prince was born in Metz, France on the 28th of August, 1841. His father was an artillery major in the French army and in the Légion d'honneur. Louis Daguerre, one of the pioneers of photography, was one of his father's friends. This allowed Le Prince to spend time at Daguerre's studio when growing up. It was also possible that Daguerre gave him some lessons in photography and chemistry whenever he visited. When he grew up, Le Prince studied painting in Paris before getting a postgraduate chemistry degree at Leipzig University. After graduation, he moved to England. There, Le Prince met his wife, Elizabeth Whitley, who was a talented artist. Together, they established the Leeds Technical School of Art, a school of applied art. The couple became famous for fixing colored photographs onto metal and pottery. Two of their clients were then Prime Minister William Gladstone and Queen Victoria. A decade later, the couple moved to the US, where Le Prince managed a group of French artists who created large panoramas of famous battles that were exhibited in Chicago, New York, and Washington, D.C. It was during this time that Le Prince became interested in learning how to produce moving photographs. He designed a camera that used 16 lenses, his very first patent. In May 1887, Le Prince and his family moved back to Leeds, where he was able to build a new camera, one that was single lens but can capture motion pictures. In October 1888, Le Prince filmed moving picture sequences of his family in a garden, which was later known as the Round Hay Garden scene. He also filmed a scene on Leeds Bridge Street using his single-lens camera and Eastman's paper film. These two films were several years before any of the known inventors of cinematography, the Lumiere brothers and Thomas Edison, showed their work to the public. In fact, Edison only applied for his moving picture patents in 1891. On September 13, 1890, Le Prince visited his brother in Dijon. From there, he planned to take a train to Paris on September 16th, meet up with friends, and then leave for the UK to patent his newest invention. Afterwards, he planned to join his family in the US and host a public screening of his motion picture film in New York. Because he took a later train than he had planned, his friends who were supposed to meet him in Paris missed his arrival. Little did they know at the time that Le Prince failed to disembark in Paris. No one saw him on the train. His luggage and personal belongings weren't on board either. Le Prince simply disappeared without a trace. The French police, Scotland Yard, and his family searched for him everywhere. The authorities looked for a corpse in the Dijon-Paris Express, as well as along the railway it traveled. They checked the Dijon station, but no one else witnessed his departure except for his brother. He was never seen by anyone during the train ride, and no one noticed anything strange happening in the Dijon-Paris Express. No one had a clue as to what had happened to Le Prince. In 1897, Le Prince was officially declared dead. No body was ever found, though. The question of what happened to Le Prince remains unanswered to this day. There are many theories regarding Le Prince's disappearance, though none of them have ever been proven to be true. Some believe that he took his own life because he was deep in debt due to his motion picture project. But there were no indications that he was stressed out financially. His family and friends didn't see any signs of despair. On the contrary, his business was doing pretty well. He and his wife have even made a name for themselves with commissions from Queen Victoria and other influential people. Not to mention, Laprance had invented something incredible and couldn't wait to show it to the world. He scheduled an exhibition in New York where his family was waiting for him. More importantly, his newest invention was bound to make him money. If he truly was on the verge of bankruptcy, then he wouldn't abandon a potential moneymaker, one that would get him out of the hole. If money wasn't the reason for his then what was? Why would he leave everything behind when he had so much going for him? He was on the cusp of making history with his invention. And would someone who made so many plans really end his life so abruptly? He even planned to meet up with his friends in Paris before heading to New York. In addition, he never left a note or a letter for his family to explain his actions and say goodbye. He was a man who loved his family very much, which was proven in his letters to them. So, why would he choose to leave them in such a devastating way? Another theory that popped up was that Laprance disappeared voluntarily. Some speculate that he was gay and his family requested for him to start a new life far away where no one knew him. It is believed that he went to Chicago, where he eventually died years after he supposedly vanished. Now, there was a stigma surrounding homosexuality during this time, but there's no evidence to confirm that Laprance was a homosexual. Moreover, his family spent a lot of time and money trying to find him. Why would they do so if they were the ones who asked him to leave? Now, if Laprance didn't disappear out of his own volition, then there are only two options left: accidental death and foul play. Let's take accidental death first. If Laprance had met with an accident that caused his untimely death, there would be evidence of it somewhere, but the police didn't find anything. They did an exhaustive search of the stations and the railway. There was nothing to indicate that he got into an accident on the train or in the station. No one remembers seeing Laprance anywhere. Given that Laprance was 6'4" and had a distinctive mutton chop beard, it would be highly unlikely that he went unnoticed. But the only witness that could confirm that he got on the train to Paris was his brother Arthur. He was the last person to see Laprance alive. Which brings us to the next theory: fratricide. Some believe that Laprance was murdered by Arthur. That's why no one noticed Laprance on the train, because he never got on it. This also explains why his luggage and belongings couldn't be on board either. This theory is quite plausible. Arthur had the means and opportunity to kill his brother. The question is motive. Why would he? The argument for this theory was that the two were in disagreement over their mother's will. In short, they were fighting over money. Another thing that made people suspect Arthur was that he claimed that Laprance was. Now, if he knew that Laprance was thinking of killing himself, then why did he let his brother travel alone? Why didn't he tell anyone, particularly Lizzie, Laprance's wife, about it? Some even say that he prevented Lizzie from flying over to help with the search. Of course, these are just hearsay. We can't find anything that proves Arthur did or said any of these things. More importantly, family members disputed this theory, including a living descendant of Laprance, Laurie Snyder. They even showed letters between the two brothers that proved they had a close, loving relationship. Moreover, Arthur donated money to help fund the search for Laprance. Even Lizzie's memoirs debunk this theory. So far, we've eliminated voluntary disappearance, death by misadventure or accidental death, and fratricide. The only theory left is assassination. Yes, you got that right. There are some who believe that Laprance was killed by a hitman. The reason? His invention of the moving picture camera. According to his widow Elizabeth, Laprance was a rival of Edison, who was also working on an invention that created moving pictures. She believed that he had something to do with her husband's disappearance. Laprance was about to patent his 1889 projector in the UK before leaving for his scheduled exhibition in New York. Her theory was that Edison wanted to eliminate his competition So he ordered a hit on Laprince to prevent him from presenting his invention to the public. Not long after Laprince disappeared, roughly around 8 months later, Edison tried to take credit for inventing cinematography. Laprince's son, Adolphe, on the other hand, wanted to establish Laprince's legacy as the inventor of moving pictures. In 1898, Edison filed a court case against the American Mutoscope Company. Adolphe served as a witness, testifying that his father was the first and sole inventor of cinematography, not Edison. However, Adolphe was not allowed to present his father's cameras as evidence, which proved Laprince had prior claim. Eventually, the court ruled in favor of Edison. The verdict was overturned a year later. Unfortunately, Adolphe was no longer alive by then. In July 1901, he was found dead with his duck hunting gun at his side near his family's summer cottage on Fire Island in New York State. No one knows for certain if this was an accident or, as his mother claims, a second murder. According to Elizabeth, Adolphe knew too much and had testified in court against Edison. Now, this incident with Laprince isn't the first time that Edison had taken the credit for inventions he had been the second to create. He was no stranger to patent lawsuits and appropriating the ideas of others. What gives this theory more weight is the new evidence that was discovered by a graduate student at the University of New York, Alexis Bedford. While conducting research on the history of motion pictures, he found a notebook among Thomas Edison's papers in the archives of the New York Library. Inside, he found a small entry dated September 20th, 1890, which read, "Eric called me today from Dijon. It has been done. Prance is no more. This is good news, but I flinched when he told me. Murder is not my thing. I'm an inventor, and my inventions for moving images can now move forward." With the librarian's permission, Bedford took the journal to historian Robert E. Meyer to ascertain its authenticity. It was indeed authentic, and the entry was proven to be written by Edison's own hand. The fact that the material for Laprince's presentation, along with his latest patents, were in his suitcase that went missing, lines up with this theory. Someone killed him and stole his documents. Coincidentally, Edison's kinetoscope was quite similar to Laprince's device, according to Lizzie. Of course, not everyone agrees with this theory. While Edison was ruthless, there wasn't anything in his history that indicated he would resort to murder just to get ahead of competition. And while the note hints at something sinister, it doesn't definitively prove that Edison hired someone to kill Laprince. Foul play isn't limited to Edison and Laprince's brother Arthur. Laprince's great-great-granddaughter Laurie Snyder has her own theory. Based on Lizzie's memoirs, Laprince would have arrived at Paris at around 11 p.m. Since it was so late, she theorizes that he would have hailed a hansom cab to take him to his workshop. Unfortunately, he might have met a driver with bad intentions. Taking advantage of the hour and the darkness, it's possible that the driver decided to rob him. So he took Laprince to a remote location, hit him over the head, and dropped his body in the Seine. This wasn't anything new. During that time, thieves tended to target lone travelers. Laprince could have just been a victim, someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. One potential piece of evidence that supports this theory is a photograph of a man who drowned in the Seine in 1890. The unidentified man had a strong resemblance to Laprince, causing some to believe that he either killed himself or was murdered by person or persons unknown. The photo was discovered in the Paris police archives in 2003. We can't be completely certain that the man in the photo is Laprince. According to some, the man is too short to be him. Based on all the details we've laid out, it's clear to see that foul play is the only possible explanation for Laprince's disappearance. Either he was killed by a hitman paid by Edison, or by thieves after he arrived in Paris. Both theories explain the lack of a body and his missing suitcase. But if we were to choose, it would have to be the hitman hired by Thomas Edison. The diary entry implies it all. Whether or not it is the truth, we will never know. We can only speculate about what most likely happened. But here's what we do know. His patents, cameras, and photographs all speak for him. His brilliance can never be questioned, and he deserves to be called the father of cinematography. If you love our content and want to support the channel, feel free to check our web shop where you can find exclusive true crime merch brought to you by Bad Things.